the best go-to-market teams don't start with prompts or playbooks. They start with perspective.
Why do early stage founders copy playbooks? Why can't they find clarity?
Templates don't win the market, right? I like to say humanity wins deals and then AI wins the market. Being similar to something that someone else already loves, in reality, is one of the easiest ways to disappear in the market, right?
Where do you think they're failing at not able to find these pain points?
It's not okay to continue to build once the market shows you it doesn't need it. You've got to go deeper to figure out what the pain really is that you're going to solve.
Most founders think they have a GTM problem, but what they really have is a clarity problem. They copy playbooks from unicorns, templates from LinkedIn, frameworks from someone else's slide deck, and then wonder why nothing clicks. Today's guest, Maria Constantine, yes, you got that right, helps founders stop copying and start building their own motion, a motion that actually converts. We break down the lies founders tell themselves about GTM, what minimum lovable motion really means, and how AI can amplify both clarity and chaos. This is AI GTM WTF. Let's get into it. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be with you.
Likewise. Please tell the audience who are you in one sentence and why does this topic get you fired up right now?
Yeah, so I lead go-to-market strategy at Tapestro, and my work is a little bit meta. I typically work as a consultant or the first sort of go-to-market hire, helping early stage founders. But now I get to be on the Tapestro team where I get to take that same go-to-market problem-solving energy and help marketing and sales leaders at any stage fix what's slowing them down by injecting AI into broken or clunky workflows.
And I've seen your product. I think it's a kick-ass product. We talked about that earlier, and I'm very excited that you get to speak with so many founders. That means you get to probably learn the best playbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a whole lot across the spectrum, from product-led growth to sales-led growth, things that work really well, things that don't work so well. I've seen it all.
That's amazing. Tell us, why do early stage founders in 0 to 1 journey are trying to copy playbook instead of finding clarity?
You know, the simple answer is that go-to-market is overwhelming. There are so many levers to test, so many channels, so many different tools. And everybody, especially in startups, they need revenue yesterday, right? They want the cheat code. They want the fastest route to revenue. But the truth is that the best go-to-market teams don't start with prompts or playbooks. They start with perspective.
Quite interesting. I mean, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience at Tapestro, every day I'm speaking with sales and marketing leaders who are considering Tapestro for their tool stack. And I'll show an example workflow, right? I'll show them what's possible with Tapestro. And almost 100% of the time, they ask me, do you have a template for this? And the answer is yes. We do have templates, but that is the wrong question. In fact, it's a bit of a red flag for me for the sales process. If they just want templates, typically, I know that this deal is going to be a little harder for me. I'm going to have to work harder. The people who are most successful with an AI tool like Tapestro, they come to me with a highly specific problem. They tell me, we want to monitor the web for this specific keyword used in job descriptions posted by SaaS companies. Then we want to reach out to those companies over email and target them with ads. Boom. That is a winning play. And Tapestro can automate that in a heartbeat.
Right. So you're saying founders are often looking for templates, and you're saying that is an okay thing to ask for because everybody is looking for the shortcuts. So what's the problem with that? I mean, why can't everybody just follow one template and get to their go-to-market quickly?
Yeah. The thing that I see over and over again is that templates don't win the market, right? We can't use AI or playbooks to skip the human process in between. I like to say humanity wins deals and then AI wins the market, right? So once we've got the humanity locked in, once we have the specifics where we understand our audience, we understand where they operate now, how they operate, what makes them frustrated at 5 p.m. in the afternoon when they just want to sign off, but they can't because this stupid thing isn't working, right? What is that pain that they experience? Once you can start articulating that, then you can automate it. Then you can plug it into a playbook, right? Or a template. But you've got to do the specifics first.
Love that. I honestly love that, what you said about how honesty loved deals. I mean, that's profound.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a story. I mean, maybe if you can, I'm pretty sure you have. Tell us a story when implementing a template kind of backfired. What actually happened?
Yeah, I was working with a startup a couple years back who had, they were solidly in like year one of their Series A. So they weren't as early as some of the companies I work with. But they brought me on because they had followed a product-led growth playbook to a T. They did everything perfect. And they failed. They had great branding. They had good shareable resources. They had hired an expensive community hire to kind of lead those kind of relationship building plays, but the revenue was stalling. There was no pull from the market. They hired me to help transition from PLG to being sales led, right? So this is like midway through their Series A. They're making this huge transition. In our early testing, we figured out that the who of this product, who is going to actually have the budget for it, who was going to be the most impacted by the tool. It was large enterprises. And the problem was that the investors were getting impatient. They wanted to see 1 million in 4 months from the point that I started. But notoriously, enterprise deals can take up to 6 months or even a year to close. So in the end, even though the team had followed this PLG template, right, this playbook, the timeline was screwed up. And the founder ended up going the acquisition route because the investors didn't give us enough time to transition to our new revenue engine. They focused on building a product sort of aligned with that PLG motion, but without doing the work of understanding, is this actually who the product is for? They were a highly technical team. They built for a highly technical audience and sort of left out the business owner, the business impact. We had to start from scratch, and that really disrupted the flow of the startup.
Wow. With the investor pressure and the market pressure and, the pressure which probably founders create for themselves. So this was like definitely uphill battle, I can imagine. Tell me what probably led them to realize that, hey, PLG is not working?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing was the revenue stall. They saw a quick peak sort of revenue at the beginning, but because they were PLG, the revenue was small increments, right? It was very developer heavy. People were using the free tier a lot, which you get excited to see people using your free tier. But if not used strategically, the free tier can be a bit of a pitfall, right? People get stuck in that free tier and you start building for the free tier. And suddenly, 3 to 4 years into building your startup, you realize, we don't know how to make repeatable revenue. We don't know how to create this go-to-market strategy that's going to give us that revenue spike that we want to see consistently, not just at the beginning or the user spike at the beginning.
All right. What's the hardest truth you might say you had to tell them, which they were not ready to hear?
Yeah, I think, everybody loves to see a spike, right? A spike on a graph is really exciting for a founder, but we have to be really careful that the metrics we're building off of or building our strategy based on, they're not just vanity metrics. There's a lot of data in go-to-market. And if you build being driven by the wrong metric, you can end up in the wrong strategy. You can end up in a PLG when your tool is actually best suited for enterprise, right? If I had been with them kind of earlier in the start, that's what I would have said to the founder. Listen, it's awesome that we're seeing this huge spike of free users. How are we going to commercialize this? Where is the revenue going to come from? They got a huge Series A funding. We've got to get a return on that. This is not a free product. That's hard to hear when you've built something and people are excited about it. You want to build for the people that are excited, but you've got to, in order to find that winning go-to-market strategy, you also have to have a repeatable revenue generator, right? It's got to be something that you can repeat across different verticals with the specific personas. You've got to know that the market is big enough. And those are hard questions to ask when you're seeing those vanity metrics early on.
I mean, I applaud the founder that they had the guts to accept that they had something wrong and change the whole strategy, especially in the middle of a fundraise. I'm going to go deeper. Tell me, given that, I'm pretty sure when they were forming the strategy for the first time that, hey, we're going to go PLG, they probably had the best advisors, hired the best people. Where do you think they missed, because of which they had to realize after a certain point that, hey, what we're doing is not working? Could there be a possibility they could have realized something earlier?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of messiness in early go-to-market strategy. And sometimes people try to optimize before they've actually even strategized, right? So we start seeing like early signs and we start to optimize for those signs. Early on, right, these are some of the questions that I challenge founders and sales marketing leaders to think about is this sustainable? Is the market large enough? These kind of zoomed back questions are where you have to start before you lock in that repeatable motion. Just because something is repeatable doesn't mean it's scalable. Those are kind of two different approaches, right? And that's easy to miss. It's easy to miss because once you start seeing something happening repeatable, then you optimize for it. But we could be missing details around, again, the size of the market, whether or not this is actually the product for the people that are getting excited about it in the initial run. Those early stage development, right, where we're in that early stage, there's so many directions a product can go. Infamously, right, products that are some of the leading tools in our industry didn't start out as what they were, right? They transformed based on the market signals and how people started to use them. So there's a lot of variety. And going back to your original question, this is why people want templates and playbooks, because there's so much variety. There's so many ways that you can go wrong. And ways that I help founders kind of avoid those like detours in the wrong direction is just by being brutally honest about the data. Are these metrics that we're seeing actual signals that we're growing in the right direction? Or are they signals that just make us feel good that we're building something that people like? Building something that people like, that's really fun and it feels good. It's not how you create a product that wins. It's not how you create a go-to-market strategy that wins.
Amazing. I'm enjoying the conversation so far and learning so much already. I'm going to double down, or I'm going to go a little deeper on the templates one more time. So let's say if I'm building a sales product, all right, sales tech product, let's say for Maria, or let's say SDRs or anything, right? Or let's say I'm building an AI SDR product, okay? And I know a successful AI SDR company, which let's say was formed or was established in the last 2 years. They have a playbook. They have a winning playbook. They have already published that. Why can't I use their playbook? Because when it's the same product, pretty much the same market, why can't I use the templates?
Yeah, that's so funny that you asked, because as I was thinking about our conversation, a consultation came to mind, something I had a couple years ago with a founder who was building what he described as a better Figma. He was funded. He had been working on the product for over a year, but he hadn't brought it to market yet. He hadn't launched it. He told me he was still tweaking. And when I asked him why he believed that his product would win, he said, well, people love Figma and our tool is just like Figma. And I knew in that moment, everything this founder thought about his product was probably going to crash. It's hard to tell a founder that or early in their building, but being similar to something that someone else already loves, in reality, is one of the easiest ways to disappear in the market, right? In this conversation with the founder, he was asking me like, well, give me, this is my product. Give me a go-to-market strategy. Give me something specific, something tactical. What's your playbook? But I couldn't, and no one can create a winning strategy if the leader can't even clearly articulate the pain that they're solving, right? Why is their product the only one that can solve it? It maybe goes without saying, I didn't end up working with this founder, but I did, out of curiosity this week, check back to see, what was going on with the product. And 2 years after that conversation I had with him, the website still says join the wait list. So I don't think they even really have launched yet. And this experience for me is a big reminder that you can't sell what you can't define, right? So just because someone else is using a playbook, if you can't define what is different about you, what problem you solve that no one else is solving, you're not going to be able to use that playbook. It's not going to be successful for you. I think of it like this, like specificity isn't just marketing polish. It's not just branding or design. It is the foundation of a real go-to-market strategy.
Amazing. Speaking of being specific, why don't we take the next step where you pick any company if you have a name, or you can just we can just make it anonymous, where you can say, hey, company X working building this product X and Y. How would you go about creating a GTM motion for them? Again, 0 to 1 journey.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because I'm doing this right now for Tapestro, right? So I can use a little bit of that experience. I'll pull in maybe some specifics for my other companies as well. But what I've seen is that for a lot of people, they make the mistake when they're defining a strategy. They look at a defined strategy that's already out there and they see, oh, okay, this starts broad and then kind of gets specific. Starts with ICP parameters, company, right? And, revenue size, all of this. And then you narrow down to like the person. But when you're starting from scratch, or even for founders out there, or for sales or marketing leaders that are looking to revive a strategy that's lagging, you have to start specific and then zoom out. That's where I like to start. So I start by asking whose life or work will be transformed by your product. If you can keep that specific person in focus at every step of defining your motion, you just about guarantee revenue, right? So who's going to be transformed by your product? The next question we do then is why? Why this person, right? Why is this person transformed by your product? With this question, you start uncovering pain. And I'm not talking about inconveniences. A lot of people make the mistake of selling to solve inconveniences, or even making a product that removes inconveniences. Most of us can put up with a lot of inconvenience before we're willing to put budget behind solving a problem. And if you're selling B2B, right, inconveniences are not going to fly with the CFO. If somebody internally has to go get approval for budget, it can't just be that, oh, my tool removes this inconvenience. We've got to talk about real pain, uncover real pain. When we think about it, it's like, if this pain goes away, someone's life or work will be completely transformed, right? That's how we define real pain. Not just nice to have, but complete transformation. I've got a concrete example here from working with Tapestro. In the market, there are so many go-to-market tools, right? You know this, you see them all the time. People have huge stacks with marketing tools, data, sort of like vendor tools. We've got signal tools, so many different options that we can choose from. But at Tapestro, we identified a few points of acute pain that exist for several specific audiences. One of these is, we talk about niche audiences are super hard to target with typical data tools. So let's say you're going after small molecule drug manufacturers or medium-sized CPA firms in Delaware, right? Those parameters do not live cleanly in our leading database tools. Companies who are going after niche audiences like this end up spending so much time on cleanup, on manual enrichment. I talked with a sales leader recently who said her reps, her SDRs, who should be on the phone every day, spend every Monday, their entire Monday, just cleaning up data. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they can spend on the phones. But like, this is a fifth of their work week is spent on just data cleanup. That is a real pain. That's taken you from being able to reach the right people, respond to lead as soon as they're showing signals. That is a real pain that impacts companies. And so Tapestro is out to solve that, right? That's a very specific pain that our specific tool is looking to solve. I guess from there, once we've got the who and we've got the pain, then it's all about testing. And for me, this is where AI really starts to shine. If you're a small team, or if you're trying to do tests are very time intensive, right? If you've got a whole strategy, but you're trying to test a new vertical or you're trying to test new messaging, you have to take your team away from what's sort of working to spend time on what might not work, right? Testing is expensive, especially in terms of time investment. So if we want to test, we've got to use AI to be able to do it in a scalable way. And when I talk about testing, I mean testing across all of the levers. We think about the who are we impacting? Who are we getting in front of? Whose life are we changing? And then we ask, does the who change based on the size of company? Right? Is that who a different title, whether you go after a small company or a big title or big company? Usually the answer is yes, the titles change based on small company or big company. Does the who respond better to LinkedIn, email, or calling? Right now we're talking about channel testing. I typically always start with email, but if you can, especially if you've got funding or if you've got a larger team, testing on the phones can be very quick to be able to see, is this going to work or not, right? We can also test signals. I mentioned before, a keyword in a job description. That's a great signal that this company might have what you need. Other signals that we recommend and test with our Tapestro platform are things like people that come to your website, right? De-anonymizing those visitors before they even fill out a form. Or how about recent executives, right? People that are hired recently or recent funding, recent product launches. All of those could be signals that someone is more open to having a conversation right now. We should be testing all of those. How can you test all of that though as one person or as just one small team? You've got to have AI augmenting these workflows in order to do it.
Now, does Tapestro, let's say, do all of this, or do you have external tools which, let's say, a founder who's listening to this podcast would have to purchase, or if you can maybe throw some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The fun thing for me is that I used to do all of this by plugging a bunch of tools together, and it would get really messy. I would inevitably end up in a lot of bottlenecks. If anyone has ever used multiple tools where you had to download a CSV and upload a CSV, I don't know why that is such a difficult process, but we've got to update column titles. We've got to make sure the formatting is correct, right? So that these two tools can speak to each other. Both go to market tools, but don't speak to each other. Tapestro really was built to solve these problems so that you can do end-to-end testing without buying all your own tools and without all of the bottlenecks that come when you use multiple tools, right? So we're solving that. We are an orchestration platform. So we're piecing together. We have tools that come out of the box with Tapestro. You can also plug in your own tools. So we've got both options. For founders, I always like to say, right, we've got everything you need right out of the box. For more mature companies that have their own tech stack they really like, awesome. We've got all of these integrations. We are an open system, so you can bring what you like, plug into the Tapestro platform, and enjoy that automation and inject AI at very strategic points along your workflow, but without all the headache of trying to make different formatted CSVs talk to each other. I cannot believe that is one of the biggest pains that sales and marketing people still have to deal with. We often, like in bigger companies, we throw it to the RevOps people to figure out, right? And then they have to spend hours cleaning up spreadsheets and making sure that the tools talk to each other. So these are things that Tapestro solves so you can get to the heart of things, right? Get to that testing, figure out where are things, which personas are responding well, which size company is responding the best, getting those meaningful metrics early on, rather than getting distracted, like we talked about before, with those vanity metrics that are going to send you off in the wrong track.
Got it. Now, when you're de-anonymizing these visitors, right? If I'm in the 0 to 1 journey, chances are that if I'm a founder, I'm actually posting on LinkedIn or reaching out to people, and based on that, there's a possibility that users who are opening my emails are probably visiting my website, right? And what you're explaining is then from there, you de-anonymize and see who is basically spending more time, and that gives you early signal. But what if I don't have enough visitors on my website? What if my step 1 is failing? How would I deal with that step 2 here?
Yeah, that's such a good question. We at Tapestro talk about like different starts of a journey. Some people come to us and say, we've got a bunch of accounts we know we want to go after. We want to layer on signals. Other people come to us and say, we don't know the accounts. We are starting from scratch. We don't know who to go after. Can you help us find them? And the answer is yes to both, right? We have both strategies that you can do through Tapestro. When we are trying to start from scratch, we start from an account search. We start with parameters and we can test this, right? We can test revenue size. We can test employee count. We can test all the different industries. When we're talking about those niche audiences, when we're pulling lists of niche audiences, sometimes it means starting broad, pulling a broad list of companies into Tapestro. We find this for you, right? We find the company list for you. And then our AI agents do the work of refining that list. Are these people actually ICP? Just because, data vendor A labels them as an e-commerce platform, are they actually an e-commerce platform or are they a SaaS company? Are they SaaS or are they a marketplace? So this is an infamous one where depending on which data tool you look at, Etsy is categorized 3 different ways, right? So we want to make sure our AI is doing some work for you to make sure that the companies being pulled in are actually ICP, replaces that manual step that your reps have to do before contacting. So we're pulling in lists, we're refining them with very strategic AI agents that are doing research. And then on the other end, you get a qualified ICP list, right? That's the output of a journey that starts this way. And we can also push these lists, this list of contacts, into your email sequencer or start targeting them with an ad campaign. So lots of different, now we're getting into playbooks, right? Lots of different playbooks that you can do, but it's not the playbook that wins, it's the specifics. So we're always going to work with you to figure out not just can we do these things, but what does this playbook look like for you, right? Who are the people? Who's the who for your strategy? Who is that specific person whose life is going to be transformed because of your product? We're going to help you create the strategy for them.
Got it. Maria, I would want to touch base on what you mentioned earlier about the pain points. You mentioned like how the surface level pain point would not fly with the CFO when you would go for approval, or maybe other business owners. And I'm pretty sure every founder does a good job at finding the pain points. One, tell me, where do you think they're failing at not able to find these pain points?
I think we very naturally build to solve pain that we've experienced. So there's a challenge here. It's a challenge of empathy, actually, where we have to develop this muscle of empathy to understand pain that maybe we haven't experienced. The best way I know to do this is to meet with people, right? Meet with who you think will be impacted by your tool. I worked with a really early stage company out of Y Combinator, a company a couple years ago. And when they hired me, they said, okay, we have created a platform for influencers, for creators. This is a tool that they're going to love. And they hadn't really had any meetings with any influencers or creators yet. They had a few friends who were influencers and creators who were telling them, ooh, this is so cool. We love this product. But as soon as I started having calls, not even sales calls, just discovery calls, learning about what these creators were experiencing, what problems they were solving, when I showed them the product, they were like, oh yeah, that's cool, but okay, so what for me? And this is not a pain that I experience every day. But the product was already built. It was already branded to be for creators. It was already pitched to the investors as a tool for creators and influencers on social media. So we had to do a pretty big shift in our strategy because getting in front of the people, right, the actual who, showed us that the pain wasn't there. And it took meeting with a lot of different types of people, a little bit of hypothesizing, right? Well, if it's not good for creators, maybe it's good for someone else in the artistic world. We found out the platform it really resonated with people who owned museums and art collections, like kind of niche museums or personal art collections or curators. So the online community of content creators didn't resonate, but in-person creators did. So that was a shift we had to do. And that was just trial and error. Right? We had a hypothesis. We tested it by calling a bunch of these people. And as soon as we getting excitement, oh my gosh, yes, I deal with that every day. We doubled down and we focused more on that type of person. It's okay. It's okay to build for a pain point. It's not okay to continue to build once the market shows you it doesn't need it, right? Once you bring it to market and you start getting negative signals or even neutral signals, those can sometimes be the hardest because we read into it. Well, they seemed enthusiastic. No, unless they said, well, can you do this? Can you do that? I've got this problem. Can you solve this for me too? Right? That's the energy that you want to hear in those early calls. If you're not getting that, you're not there yet. You've got to go deeper to figure out what the pain really is that you're going to solve.
Quite interesting. And that brings me to another interesting question. A lot of founders who are building are technical. They have never been on calls. They don't know what kind of questions to ask. Some of them are very inquisitive, but some of them do not know, let's say, how to get attention of these buyers. And I'll give you an example. I just spoke to a founder friend who is building a product for product managers. And they got, I think, based on what they could learn, based on what they could find from the templates, they kind of got LinkedIn. They got the navigator, reached out to a bunch of product managers. Some replied, some did not. So what they don't have right now, of course, they don't know what's working, what's not working. And
Yes.
when I looked at the messaging was off, and obviously they must have copied some of the templates from ChatGPT, or maybe somebody told them.
Sure.
So plus at the same time, even if they get on a call, I believe they are maybe not asking the right questions.
Really?
Maybe they could be asking leading question. I think I made this mistake in early stage when I was building the last company. And so I can imagine technical founders might be even doing this more. How would you coach them on asking the right question? How would you coach them on not leading with the leading questions, for example?
Yeah. I think there's even one step before this, Rahul. Before the questions, we have to say like, well, what type of meetings are you booking, right? There is a very big difference between your first demo calls and the calls you should be having before your first demo calls. You can call them discovery calls. You can call them whatever you want to call them, right? Those are just as important as your first demo calls. In those early calls, you should not be pitching your product at all, right? This is where you are discovering pain. You are asking questions like, what tools are you using right now? What do you like about it? And what do you hate about it? If you had a magic wand and we could wave that magic wand and solve one problem today, doesn't matter how realistic it is or not, what would you use that magic wand on, right? I've gotten such fascinating answers to that question. Once you kind of take away, oh, well, it's not possible, or, you could never do this, or, well, you solve this problem, so I'm not even going to talk about this, right? Those kinds of self-selecting thoughts that someone on a call might have. We remove that, let them just talk. Hear how they put the pain in their own words. Once we do that, okay, now we're starting to refine our strategy and we can start doing our first demo calls, testing some of that language that we hear in those early calls. I would say, right, it's so easy to look for validation in those early calls. I built this. What do you think about it? When you lead with a question like this, people generally are quite kind, right? They're not going to crush your dreams by telling you, I would never use this, or I would never pay for this, or this is dumb, right? No one's ever going to say that to your face. They might go away and completely forget about you. And wouldn't that be the worst case, right? For them to walk away and completely forget about your product? Versus if you use those early calls to say, what's your pain? Help me understand. Where are you at today? Then when you maybe call them up again in a week or two, you say, hey, you told me you have this exact pain. I built this feature that solves that exact pain. Are you interested in taking a look? Now suddenly they're like, are you kidding me? Yes, let's go. Can you meet today? Right? Now you've got that enthusiasm again because you're actually building for a real pain point. Now, I don't recommend building for every pain point, right? We want to make sure you're having enough meetings that you're starting to see a trend in pain before you start creating features or developing your product along a certain route. But that's where I would encourage founders to start. In those early calls, hold back as much as you can. Try not to say anything about your product. It's really hard. And most likely people at the end say, well, okay, but come on, tell me what you're building, right? I want to know a little bit. Typically, they probably took that call because they were interested in you as a founder or interested in your space, but hold off as much as possible. If you do mention anything about your product, make sure it's the last part of the call. Don't inform their answers by telling them too early what field you're in or what problem you think you're solving. Let them tell you. Let them tell you where their pain really is.
That's such an amazing revelation. And Believe it or not, that's one of my go-to question. And I was about to say that, did you copy my questions? Be- Because this is the question I ask everybody. Imagine you have a magic wand and you have like a genie in front of you and you have one wish to make your life so better with your work. Tell me, what would you want? And usually the kind of answers you get, because sometimes people have never thought about it, and then they usually take a pause and they're like, okay, if I have one wish, this is what I want. And
Mm.
that's usually such a profound answer. You're like, wow, I never thought about it.
Yeah.
And one other thing which we learned recently and which we implemented and it worked out really well for us as a part of our incubator is where we tell the user, hey, imagine you have a mic on your forehead. So tell us everything what's going on in your head when you are describing your day. Don't leave any single detail,
Mm.
right? And they talk about, I go to ChatGPT and I type in this prompt and I then go back and forth and I spend 30 minutes. What happens after you've spent 30 minutes? And
Yeah.
get to that feeling, right? And when you do that, you're able to not only get those pain points, and we in fact have a custom pain finder which we have which we have
Oh,
built.
cool.
Yeah. Which we have actually made public, and anybody can use it. So you just answer a basic question and that gives you like those emotional responses which most people are not able to think about. And when you use that in messaging, that kind of just makes a different impact altogether.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I think what you're talking about there, like the emotional side, the feeling, this is classic sales, classic marketing, but it's so easy to forget that we think people make decisions based on how good our product is or how flashy the features are or how catchy our marketing phrases are. But the ultimate truth, right, is that people are making decisions based on how you make them feel. If they're looking at two competitive tools and, this one has 8 features and this one has 10 and this one's a little more expensive, but this is a little cheaper per month. It's like, oh my gosh, there are so many different levers that you could make a decision based on. But if the salesperson over here has ignored you for 3 weeks and the salesperson over here sends you a friendly, touch every couple days. How you doing? I know you've got that board meeting. You doing all right? Did you get some sleep this weekend? How's your kiddo? You mentioned, I saw your kiddo on the call. You introduced them the other day. How are they doing? How was that school play they were in? These human-driven connections. Even if it's just that, if that is the only difference, people are going to more likely go with the team that is showing their humanity. So I know we've been talking a little bit about like AI versus humanity. Where do each of them have their strengths? When it comes down to decision making, humanity is going to win, right? Humanity wins deals. I'll take that to my grave. I strongly believe that.
So where does AI has place in GTM today? I think we've talked about that for the last 30, 40 minutes that, hey, lead with the human emotions, lead with humanity. But we're running in the age of AI and everything is powered by AI. Like I just found out that I can integrate ChatGPT with my WhatsApp now. So pretty much like, yeah. So there's absolutely no place. And next month, I'm also planning to buy those AI glasses. So imagine the kind of world we are living in.
Look at you. Cool.
Yeah, when you're building an AI company, everything has to be powered by AI. So where does AI has a place in the GTM today, according to you? Where do you think technical or non-technical founders can use AI to their advantage to not only get to their GTM, but win in the GTM?
Yeah. So this goes back. We never want to use AI to give us specifics, right? AI cannot generate quality if all you feed it is chaos and vague ideas, right? Vague and chaos in, vague and chaos out. But if AI is fed context, if it's fed specifics, the output can be transformational, right? It can speed things up. It can allow you to do research at scale. It can replace the sort of slog that some of these patching together multiple tools can sometimes create. So when we're talking to people who are especially just starting to explore AI and go to market, if they're oftentimes they come to Tapestro because of that. They've got some project management has said we've got to be up with the times. We've got to have a go to market AI, marketing AI, sales AI strategy. And people come to us and say, "Oh my gosh, where do I start?" Right? Am I firing people and replacing them with AI? Am I completely scrapping my tool stack and replacing it with ChatGPT? Where do I start? And I always like to, again, and this is like defining a go-to-market strategy for your target audience. We're also defining it for yourself when we say, where is the pain? Let's find friction points and let's find bottlenecks, right? When you get targeted with where you're injecting AI across your workflow, it can be transformational. What we see a big bottleneck for a lot of people is making tools talk to each other. Tapestro uses our platform and our built-in AI to allow different spreadsheets with different headers to talk to each other without you having to clean them up. Right? It's a simple thing, but it has huge implications, hours of saved work. Then we say, okay, how about writing content at scale? We know generally what we want to say to people, but we don't want to send the same message to 1,000 people. All right, let's use AI to research what this person's pain is. Let's use AI to research and give us a 2-sentence snippet or even a multiple word snippet, right? We're going to inject that into our strategy, into our template, so that everyone who receives this email is getting something that is targeted to them, right? There's those little snippets of personalization that actually hook on and sort of catch their humanity, right? So we're using AI to actually respect and honor the humanity of the person receiving it. Not everyone is created equal. Not every company's problem is created equal. We can use AI to do those customization bits at scale. These are some of the most common use cases that people come to Tapestro wanting to do. So we help them build that with our platform.
Amazing. I honestly love this conversation, and I'm gonna put you on the spot now, Maria.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna read a founder or an operator line, and you have to say truth or BS and why. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Ready?
ready.
All right. We'll fix GTM after a product matures.
Ooh. BS. This is one of the surest ways to build a product that no one wants.
All right.
We got it.
Sorry.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No. I was just going to say, got to make sure the pain is there before the product is polished.
Amazing. We just need a growth hacker.
I would say half and half. It can be very valuable if you have the budget to invest in someone who has these skills and who does it every day. Also, you can do a lot of this early before you hire someone, before you outsource this, to again, make sure you have that initial pain, that initial person verified if you had some kind of hypothesis of who you're building for. A little bit, it is definitely doable for yourself, but if you have the budget and you can outsource it, not a bad idea.
All right. That's good. We need more data before selling.
Ooh. Yes, but it depends on the data, right? Not all data is created equal as well. So we want to make sure that we have data that is like verifying that there is a problem, verifying that the people we're talking to actually have a pain that we're going to solve, right? That the who is not just an imaginary who, but it's a real person out there experiencing these pains. You got to have that. You got to have that data proving, right? You've got to have those early signals. You don't need huge amount of users. You don't need huge amount of followers on LinkedIn or even a huge amount of emails going out. You can get early signals by sending manual emails, right? You don't need to send a list of 1,000 to know if people are resonating or not. Start small, get early signals. You need data. You don't need a huge amount of data.
Last not the least, AI will handle GTM for us.
Yes. Don't ever let AI handle GTM for you. You've got to have somebody doing the strategy. You've got to have the humanity at the heart of your strategy, and then use AI to scale. Use AI to test at a scale that you've never been able to test before. Use AI to take the heart that your team, that your people have developed and spread that to the widest audiences possible, right? Use AI to scale. Don't ever use it to strategize or to replace the human.
Amazing. This has been so great, Maria. I don't honestly have words to describe how amazing this conversation has been. So thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's been such a pleasure.
Likewise.